You know, a lot of people dive into hosting short-term rentals through platforms like Airbnb, thinking it's a great way to make some extra cash. But here's the thing, guys. Many of them end up throwing in the towel within the first year. And you may be asking, why? Well, the changes pile up fast. Managing demanding guests, keeping up with rising housekeeping and repair costs, as well as dealing with platform policies that sometimes seem to favor guests honestly more than hosts. Then there are the bigger issues from owning a property as well, like unpredictable demand, fluctuating occupancy rates, and those unexpected damages like pets causing more damage. Some people power through these hurdles, but for others, it starts feeling like way too much work for the payoff. Now, if you've been following my channel for quite some time, I have a rather large short-term rental and only really one short-term rental in my entire portfolio, and that's in Broken Bow, Oklahoma. Now, that cabin up in Broken Bow, Oklahoma started out with the intention of maybe buying a small cabin in Broken Bow and then also using some extra proceeds from another property that I made some income off of and utilize that for a small condo in maybe Colorado. Well, lo and behold, I wound up taking a trip to Broken Bow and actually used the entire proceeds on a large cabin in Broken Bow and kind of deserted the entire idea of getting a short-term rental up in Colorado altogether to basically use all of that 1031 income that I generated from a prior investment property and roll that into the cabin in Broken Bow. Well, fast forward beyond 2022 into 2023, effectively June of 2023, I started renting out this large cabin. And just to give you guys some rough numbers, if you haven't watched my prior content, it's a 4-master bedroom with a bunk room and a loft room that sleeps close to 20 people. It's over 3,500 square feet, north of 2,000 square feet of covered patio out in the front and as well as the back. And all in, it cost me about $1.2, maybe $1.3 million all in terms of furnishing and additional just build costs. So yes, I've had it rented since June of 2023. We are now in January of 2025. So we've got about 18 months of actually renting out this cabin. And lo and behold, I'll be honest with you guys, it has rented for every single weekend since I think June 13th or 14th in 2023. Now that definitely could not be said by a ton of other cabins in Broken Bow, Oklahoma. And just a precursor, I will get to a little bit later in this video why I've kind of actually succeeded so well in a market that I would say is pretty saturated and pretty competitive, but I've also ran into some issues along the way as well. Now, while you can't avoid every hosting problem, there are ways to manage a lot of them. For example, these slow seasons, they're just part of the game in most places. January right now and February are definitely slow in Broken Bow, but demand tends to spike during summer vacations, holidays, or other big travel times. Then drop-offs often happen during quieter months, as I just mentioned. And in some areas, you might only see a few months of consistent high demand all year. Now, the kicker though, is the number of hosts or available listings don't adjust nearly as quickly. Once you've invested time, effort, and money into setting up and furnishing a listing, you're kind of locked in even when bookings do slow down. Now, my particular situation, as I mentioned before, I started building in 2022. I knew there were gonna be costs associated with it, ran me into close to June of 2023. Now, there was a ton of financial obligations towards the end of that loan. Obviously, I had a construction loan. Interest was bearing on the amount that was drawn. So as it grew closer to the end of that actual construction loan, it became more and more expensive. I also then at the end of the entire build job, had to pay my builder even more because we made a couple additions and a couple upgrades as well. And then last but not least, I also had to furnish an entire cabin. This is not a 1-bedroom condo in Colorado, which looking back on would have been far cheaper to actually furnish. Instead, I had to furnish this massive cabin. And in order to set yourself apart, you can't just have, Walmart furniture in a $1.4, $1.3 million cabin. You can't just have no blinds. You can't have no shades. You can't have, a little bit here and a little bit there when you have a massive kitchen. You need all the utensils. You need all of the beddings. You need all of the extra furniture in order to set yourself apart. But there's obviously a reason why I have consistently stayed booked, as well as been able to get that $800, that $1,000, upwards of maybe $2,000 a night for my cabin. It's because I didn't cut corners. And obviously keep this all in mind here, guys. All of the furnishing that I do wind up paying for, as well as, furnishings that I've since paid for to replace, it's all a write-off. But here's a common pitfall, guys. During the busy seasons when bookings are booming, a lot of hosts miss out on opportunities to set themselves up for slow months. High-paying weekend travelers grab all of the attention, but what about budget-conscious guests? They might prefer longer stays at a discounted rate. And when the slow season hits, those high-paying travelers are nowhere to be found, leaving hosts scrambling to fill their calendars. Now, the smart hosts, they plan ahead. offering discounts for weekly or monthly stays to attract budget travelers and keep that income steady year-round. Now, I personally actually have a co-host. So the co-host, there's obviously a fee associated with that, but everything that they have implemented within their system essentially has dynamic pricing. Now, this is obviously going to hopefully settle a lot of the issues that people may struggle with, especially if you're managing your short-term rentals yourself and you're going in and trying to adjust prices accordingly, or maybe, hey, I don't have any bookings, I'm going to slash prices drastically, and then you have people staying at nice places for fractions of the price because you're not being smart when it comes to, hey, I'm gonna give up 15% of my overall gross income or net income or whatever expense it winds up being for a co-host, but that co-host is going to make me so much more. So for example, with the cabin that I have, we definitely are never going to adjust prices. Now, hold on, when I actually have the entire sentence here to tell you, we will actually adjust prices up. So for instance, if we have a night that's not booking for, let's say, $1,000 a night, we'll increase that price maybe to $1,200 or $1,500 a night and then offer a steep discount, like a 40% discount on a night that's $1,500 a night. That's gonna maybe run you maybe $600 in savings. Now you're down to $900 a night, which is actually less than the initial rate that night was at $1,000 a night. But to you, if you're an interested person looking at this cabin, you now see that you're getting close to $600 off a night for that particular night. It still gets me a decent rate for that night. You think you're getting a great deal, which you still are getting a great deal, but then I also keep my property booked because I'm then actually giving discounts when in reality it's more like a 10% discount rather than a 40% discount, but both parties win at that point. So in reality, when it comes to short-term rentals, obviously I have one large property to really give you any kind of guidance or feedback on. About 18 months of obviously renting it, I feel like I have a decent amount of experience now renting a short-term rental. I also technically rented out a bedroom within this very house I'm filming this video in as a short-term rental, technically to offset when I was a single guy and had a roommate in this house, but I don't really utilize that as short-term rental experience. I got to understand Airbnb a little bit more when I first started doing that back in 2020, but really my first true experience with short-term rental was this cabin, and obviously it was a big one to say the least. But as far as advice that I have for those individuals that are looking to maybe, hey, get into short-term rentals, I know there is a lot of negative connotation right now towards Airbnb, VRBO. I know what is commonly said right now is just all the additional fees when it comes to Airbnb. Like, why do I want to go rent a cabin for $1,000 a night when it turns into a $2,000 a night cabin when you pack on all the extra fees, the taxes, cleaning fee? And then there's also a running joke of like Airbnb hosts, which I do as well, ask that my guests, if they could, potentially start a load of laundry. We have 2 washers and dryers a piece, but when you have 20 people, and all of those beds, in order to turn a cabin over of that size, it saves a substantial amount of time if we could at least start some of the laundry. Otherwise, that 6-hour window when you have someone checking in on a Thursday, when you have someone checking out on a Thursday at 10 a.m. and another huge family or, get together of 20 people coming in at 4 p.m. on that Thursday, it gets difficult to be able to turn these around. So a lot of people will sit there and trash talk Airbnb and just the overall cost and requirements of, I guess you could say, guests. It's becoming maybe a little less desirable for some, but at the end of the day, for me, I have a soon-to-be wife in the middle of this year. I've got a 7-month-old son, and a hotel room is only going to be good for so many more years, especially with more kids coming, hopefully in the future. Needless to say, Airbnb and VRBO is a great opportunity for families to be able to have a bigger place, a nicer place. I can tell you there's not any hotels anywhere near my cabin that are going to be anywhere as nice as my cabin. So it's still going to be a viable option, both from a host perspective / investor's perspective, but also as an individual or group that utilizes Airbnb or just short-term rentals for enjoyment. So to wrap all this up, if you're really looking to get into short-term renting, I just suggest that you find a way to set yourself apart from really everything else. Now, there's a lot of money out there. There's a lot of investors out there. There's a lot of just companies that have endless amounts of money to throw places. And trust me, there are a ton of people out there searching for the next place to invest in terms of whether it be long-term, short-term, corporate rentals, whatever it may be. You're more than likely not going to find a golden gem that no one else has heard of. So what do you got to do? You've got to be able to set your short-term rental apart from all of the other competition around you. And that's kind of what I did with mine, with a corner lot overlooking really all of the mountains, as well as just making sure that the furnishings that I have in the house, as well as the amenities, far exceed or at least are on par with some of the top rentals in the area. And then of course course, the overall size of my cabin. You look at the average median size or price of cabins up in Broken Bow, Oklahoma. I would say they range anywhere from the low 600s all the way up to maybe 900K. Obviously, there are some that are close to 2 million, but there are not a lot of those. And there certainly isn't a lot of cabins closer to the $1.5 million range, which is roughly what mine is valued at today. So setting myself apart by having a larger cabin obviously opens myself up to more options with larger families or larger gatherings, which has allowed my cabin, as I mentioned earlier in this video, to stay consistently rented every single weekend for the last 18 months. But this entire experience over the last 18 months could look completely different if I didn't do my due diligence. If I just bought a very mediocre and cheap cabin, I'd be sitting on an investment property that just didn't generate any income and consistently didn't book. But again, as always, I made sure to do my due diligence, made a good investment, and I'm still yielding the return 18 months later, and hopefully we'll be continuing to yield positive results for decades to come. So the moral of the story here, guys, is if you're thinking about jumping into short-term rentals, or maybe you're already in it and struggling to stay afloat, remember this: understanding revenue management, market dynamics, and platform algorithms isn't optional. It's absolutely essential. Whether or not it's you physically learning these and understanding these and the market that your short-term rental is in, or if you offset it to a co-host, make sure the co-host lives in the area or has an exceptional knowledge of that particular area where your short-term rental is, and it's not just some large corporation that doesn't truly care about your cabin, for me, for instance, or your short-term rental, whatever it may be. Make sure that they truly care about your return. Otherwise, it's just going to be a complete nightmare. But that's all I got for you guys this week. As always, I appreciate the support. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and stay tuned for next week's content.